Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving into something pretty profound,
Yeah.
and that is your personal reflections on what you consider hallowed.
Ooh, that's good.
I was so intrigued by what you shared,
Yeah.
a room that's a double-edged sword,
Mhm.
the power of effort, even some mysterious arm scars.
Right.
I think we're going to uncover some really interesting insights today.
It's remarkable how universally we humans seek out meaning and significance.
Yeah.
We all have our own hallowed ground, those
hmm
things we hold sacred, and it's a privilege to explore yours today.
Okay, let's unpack this. You described your room as a sacred space,
Mm.
a place of both ultimate freedom
Right.
and a sense of recklessness. What makes the
Yeah.
space so unique for you?
That double-edged sword aspect is really insightful. It speaks to the inherent tension in personal growth.
Uh-huh.
We crave freedom, but absolute freedom without boundaries can lead to chaos.
hmm
It's a dance between self-discovery and self-destruction, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and it reminds me of how you describe your gym routine.
Right.
It's another space where you push boundaries, experience triumphs and frustrations.
Exactly.
It's like both your room and the gym become these crucibles where you confront yourself.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that the concept of hallowed ground
Yeah.
often involves this element of challenge.
Yeah,
It's not always about comfort and ease, but about those places, physical or metaphorical,
right.
where we grapple with who we are and who we want to become.
It's about the effort we put in, too. You get that powerful statement, effort is not the most valued in society,
Yeah.
but deserves the most respect in life.
Mm.
I love that, but it made me wonder, are there different kinds of effort
Yeah.
we should be thinking about here?
That's a great question. It's easy to think of effort as simply striving for achievement, like in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the effort involved in building character, in acts of service to others?
Right.
Think of Mother Teresa, for example.
Yeah?
Her life was defined by tireless effort, not for personal gain, but for the betterment of humanity.
Right. That's a powerful form of hallowed effort.
And then there's the effort of simply being a decent human being
Oh, yeah?
in a world that can often feel chaotic, that takes effort too,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So much of what we're talking about seems to come back to how we value things, how we decide what deserves respect.
And who deserves it, right?
Yeah.
You were very clear that effort that harms society shouldn't be respected.
Right.
This gets at that complex question of judgment. How do we discern between effort that uplifts and effort that destroys?
It's almost like there's a spectrum of respect. We admire the effort of an athlete pushing their limits,
Hmm.
but we condemn the effort of someone who manipulates others for personal gain.
Yeah.
It's about the intent behind the action, isn't it? And
Yeah.
maybe that's what starts to make something truly hallowed, that combination of effort and ethical action,
Right?
of striving towards something bigger than ourselves.
I think you're onto something there. It's not just about the sweat and toil, but the heart and soul poured into something.
Right. That's what resonates with us. That's what we instinctively respect.
Which brings us to this idea of honoring memory, of keeping someone's spirit alive.
Mm-hmm.
You had a really beautiful way of putting it, remembering the good,
Yeah.
even acknowledging that they might not have been perfect.
It speaks to the power of memory as its own form of hallowed ground.
Right.
We construct narratives about the people we've lost, and in doing so, we keep them present in our lives.
Yeah.
It's a way of respecting their impact on us, even if their lives weren't flawless.
And it makes me think about your arm scars. You see them every day, these tangible reminders of a past event.
Sure.
What makes them hallowed ground for you?
It's interesting, isn't it? They're not something you chose, yet they're part of your story.
Right.
And you've come to accept them, even find a sense of this is me in them.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, can even our bodies, the vessels we inhabit,
Hmm.
hold spaces of profound meaning?
Like those scars become a testament to your resilience, to your journey.
Yeah.
They're not just marks on your skin,
Right.
but etched onto your very being. And perhaps that's one of the most profound aspects of hallowed ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always about external achievements or grand gestures,
Yeah.
but about finding meaning in the most personal and unexpected places.
Exactly.
It's like we find hallowed ground in the tapestry of our own lives, weaving meaning from both the beautiful and the difficult.
Mm.
It's so personal, yet it feels like something we all yearn for.
It's that human need for connection, for something to anchor us. And you touched on something really intriguing about how we connect with others through shared values, even when those values might differ. You talked about understanding, finding common ground, and offering positive criticism as ways to respect what's important to others.
It sounds like you're advocating for a really mindful approach to navigating those differences,
Yeah.
especially when something is deeply personal or sacred to someone else.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that what constitutes hallowed ground can vary widely. What one person considers inviolable might be viewed differently by another. The key is to approach those conversations with empathy and a willingness to listen, even if we don't agree.
It's like stepping onto that hallowed ground with reverence, even if it's not our own. And it makes me think about how we define what's acceptable or unacceptable behavior, those lines we draw in the sand. You brought up some bad things that we might feel others deserve, but how our conscience dictates what crosses the line, where do we draw those lines, and who gets to decide?
That's such a complex question. It speaks to the interplay of individual conscience and societal norms. Some things, like physical harm, are widely condemned as unacceptable, but there are gray areas where those lines blur, and personal thresholds come into play. What might be considered a minor offense by one person could be deeply hurtful to another.
And those thresholds probably shift throughout our lives too, right? What might have seemed acceptable in our youth could become completely intolerable as we mature and our values evolve.
Precisely, our understanding of right and wrong isn't static. It's shaped by experience, empathy, and our evolving sense of morality.
So navigating this hallowed ground of values and ethics involves constant reevaluation, both individually and as a society, and it requires open and honest conversations even about those uncomfortable topics, right?
Absolutely. Those conversations are often where the most profound growth happens. It's about being willing to challenge our own assumptions, to acknowledge different perspectives, and to find ways to coexist peacefully, even amidst disagreements.
It's like we're tending to this collective garden of values, constantly weeding out what no longer serves us and nurturing what helps us flourish. But you raised an important point. How can something be both deeply respected and still capable of evolving over time? I mean, can something be considered hallowed if it's constantly changing?
That's where things get really interesting. Think about love, for example. It's often considered one of the most sacred and powerful forces in human experience, yet it's anything but static. Love can move mountains to make things work, but it can also break us if we cling too tightly to outdated expectations.
It's like love needs to breathe, to adapt to flow with the changing currents of our lives. And maybe that's true for all hallowed things, traditions, values, even our understanding of what's sacred.
It speaks to the inherent paradox of holding something dear while also allowing it the freedom to transform. It's a delicate balance, a dance between reverence and evolution, and it makes me wonder, do our personal definitions of hallowed ground actually evolve alongside us?
You know, I think that's exactly what happens. The things we cherish, the spaces we hold sacred, they reflect who we are at any given moment.
Yeah.
Just as we grow and change, so too do those definitions.
And perhaps that's the most beautiful aspect of all this constant interplay between who we are and what we hold dear. It's a lifelong journey of defining, refining, and redefining what truly matters.
It's like we're constantly tending to our own personal gardens of hallowed ground,
Right.
making sure it nourishes us while also being open to new growth and unexpected blooms.
What a beautiful way to put it. And speaking of growth, you shared an interesting perspective on how traditions, those cornerstones of culture and identity, can also evolve.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by how traditions both ground us and guide us forward. They connect us to the past,
Uh-huh.
but they also have this amazing capacity to adapt to changing times.
Exactly. You use the example of your own evolving traditions, like your new gym routine.
Yeah.
It's become this modern day ritual, a way of carving out hallowed ground in a world that often feels chaotic.
It's like creating a sense of stability and purpose amidst the constant flux. And it makes me wonder,
Yeah.
what will future generations consider hallowed?
Yeah.
You brought up the idea of a balanced life, eating healthy, staying active.
Right.
Those timeless principles that seem to transcend generations.
It's intriguing, isn't it, perhaps in a world that's increasingly fast-paced and demanding?
Right.
Those simple acts of self-care will become even more sacred. It's like a return to the fundamentals, a recognition that true well-being is its own form of hallowed ground.
It's about finding that equilibrium, that sweet spot between pushing ourselves and honoring our need for rest and rejuvenation. And it makes me think about how we started this conversation with your room as a double-edged sword. It's almost like our journey toward hallowed ground is a constant dance between freedom and boundaries, between challenging ourselves and embracing acceptance.
It's a dance we all participate in our own unique ways, and it's been a privilege to explore those steps with you today.
This deep dive has been so insightful. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this concept of hallowed ground, but you've given me so much to think about.
The insights were all yours. Thank you for sharing them so openly and honestly with us.
And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this exploration of what makes something truly sacred. We hope this deep dive has sparked some reflection on your own hallowed ground and how it shapes your journey.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep cultivating those spaces, both internal and external, where you feel most alive and connected to what truly matters. Until next time.
See you on the next deep dive.